What black market did kids at your school run? A kid in my school used to sell stupid amounts of tapes for $10. We found out later that his dad had paid for some channels, and I guess he never noticed his son had them open in his room. He would buy empty tapes and just hit record until the tapes were full. I know I bought at least 10 of them. This was in the 90s. That guy was making a shit ton of money. He would bring a backpack full of tapes almost every day and leave school with it empty. I was in elementary school when pogs were big. Everyone had cool slammers and stuff, but I didn't have money for good ones. My dad made one out of 1/2 mild steel for me and used an engraving pen to make a simple pattern. Everyone was asking me where I got them from. I didn't wanna lose my unfair edge, but I also knew I could make money. My dad had a big sheet of this 1/2 to steel. I told them I was the only one who could get them. I sold them for $15 a pop. My dad kept 10, I got 5. And that's when I learned what overhead was. I went to a private high school with a strict dress code, ties, belt, etc. So I bought a bunch of ties and belts from a thrift store and ran a lucrative rental business out of my locker. I used to sell Coke, the drink, because they didn't allow fizzy drinks to be brought in. A buddy of mine found his mom's dildo when we were 11 years old and he charged people to come and see it. Made a small fortune during that week it lasted. I have family in NY and would go visit a couple times a year back in high school. Every once in a while we'd visit Chinatown and Nick and I'd end up buying $100's worth of fake watches, Rolex, Tag, Gucci, etc. Return to school and sell them for double than what I paid for them. At my school I ate all sweets out of the vending machines and replaced them with healthy snacks. In the local town there was a sweet shop where you could buy a kilo of mixed sweets for £5. So every week I would go there and buy 1 pound of small paper bags and spend the Sunday night before school repackaging them all ready for the week ahead. Come Monday I would go into school and load my bag up every day selling the bags for 50p. Cuban sandwiches straight out a duffel bag before school. They were bomb, cheap and way better than the lunch in the cafeteria. Apple laptops in middle school. Some had iTunes, some didn't, and the kids wanted it, so I apparently was the only one who knew how to transfer the installer with my USB. I put it on everyone's laptop for gifts, favors, etc. in return. Got caught by the sub that day. I told her it was my flash drive, I could do what I wanted with it. And that's how I got my second detention of my life. The only guy in the school whose family had proper TV channels used to tape wrestling events and rent them out. My school used the metallic ends of pencils as a currency. Bronze was rarest, so it was the most expensive. Green was most common, so it was the least. We traded for erasers or pencil cases or a spot up in the 4 square line. Eventually got banned, but we still operated with people acting as banks to keep the currency hidden and to keep transactions hidden. Silly bands. I remember a kid made like $50 one day. Our school didn't have candy, so I started buying huge bags of pixie sticks and sold them for like $0.25 a piece. Then I got caught. This was middle school, so drugs and all that excluded. Nintendo games. Some kid sold them off for like 10 or 15 bucks a pop. I don't know where he got them from, but he said he just told his dad what he wanted and his dad would get it for him. He'd ask for the same ones over and over and it didn't matter. He'd end up with 5 copies and he'd just sell 4 of them. Either the kid was the most spoiled brat in history, or his dad was straight up stealing them anyhow. Anyways, I could never get any. I had a Sega, but I remember that kid making a killing in grade 3. 2 years ago I was a sophomore in high school, and freshmen weren't allowed to go off campus but everyone else was. So I'd take orders, go to the local fast food shops, and get the goods. I'd up the price by about $2 and ended up making about $200 a month. It's not anything bad, but we had a black market for food and another for birth control pills. Banana chips were 25 cents in the vending machine in middle school. I always went to school early, so I always ended up buying all of them and selling them for 50 cents a bag. I would buy 6 packs of soda for $1.79 and resell the 6 sodas for a total of $3. Cinnamon toothpicks were all the rage in grammar school. I know people at my school sold weed and pills and got busted. Like 20 people got expelled. I lived in an area with a lot of retiree age people, a lot of which ended up raising their grandchildren. It really isn't a good area. Being older and from a rural area, they still don't trust online sites like eBay or Amazon, so I started ordering people things from those sites for actual money and added a charge for me to be making money off of it. It eventually got shut down because I got someone a USB in the shape of a pistol. It was the size of a USB and clearly a USB, but it didn't matter. The principal actually got the police involved to try to get me in real trouble. During elementary school in the 80s, many candies weren't individually wrapped for resale in stores. Think Warheads, etc. I bought bulk packs of candy, didn't matter what kind, although atomic fireballs were my cash cow. I individually packed them, or maybe a couple to a pack depending on the candy. I use those tiny Ziplocs you see people use for drugs. Being around adults a little devoid of scruples, I was able to get those in bulk from a local head shop called High on the Hill. It was a surreal time looking back. I was the only supplier for a year solid in 4th grade. I made so much bank for a 10-year-old, it was insane. I would make $100 a week just off of atomic fireballs. The bulk jugs were about $5 or $6 each wholesale, and at a quarter each it worked out to about $60 a jug profit if I recall. Luckily school came easy to me because it was a full-time job keeping stock, packaging product, counting piles of change, budgeting, keeping a bank register. Mom got a separate account that I used for my money, dodging the man, etc. It was turbulent as I never really had a group of friends as a kid, but in the 4th grade I was the man. Going from having no real good friends and having my time divided by either being picked on or ignored, to becoming the belle of the ball was surreal. Even at that time I was able to realize what was going on. Their smiles were all fake. Their interest was not in me, but rather what was in my bag any given day. Girls were not saying hello because they were being polite, or even the least bit interested in talking to me. They were just waiting their turn for their fix. That denim bag got more attention than I ever dreamed of. I was just along for the ride. I had laid the groundwork and provided the blueprint. When the 5th grade started there was competition, but they were weak. They would always sell out, or only buy enough to make a few bucks here and there, largely selling lollipops or pre-packed stuff, Hershey's Kisses, Bitter Honey or Tootsie Rolls, whatever they could grab at the store before school. It was amateur hour. They had made a mockery of something I took seriously as a 10-11-year-old can take something. I closed up shop pretty quickly after the school year began. The fast life and fast money was over. The excitement wasn't there. The smiles weren't as big. Kids came to me as a last resort. They bought the popular kids completely out before looking my way. It was like flipping a switch. My first day without the bag I had a few kids ask if I was holding. But once word got around that I was out of the game, everything went back to normal. No friends, no conversation, no one to sit with at lunch or on the bus. No one interested, fake or otherwise. It's the first time I had ever really witnessed the dynamic of being disingenuous. I had always been authentic, and after it was all over, I was happy to stay that way. I've never really recounted this time in 2 words. As it turns out, I learned a lot of life lessons in the 4th grade. Pokemon cards. We would hide under playground equipment and trade them because the teachers would take them if they saw them. So we always set up deals in class and created a whole Pokemon card trading network. The duct tape wallets. Every year there was a new kid doing it, lol. I used to deal in whiteboard markers for teachers in high school. One teacher had a tendency to hoard them, leaving none for other teachers. I would take markers from him and provide them to other teachers in need. While there was no formal payment, I was given a little bit more leniency at times, e.g. requests to leave the classroom for a moment, etc. Once the marker would start squealing on the whiteboard because it was almost empty, I'd get teachers giving me a nod as if to say you got the goods. I'd then supply them with the marker color of their choosing, usually black. It was actually a lot of fun, and I never heard teachers talk about my systems or chastise me for taking markers.